What's up, peeps? Welcome to another edition of Hip Hop Head. My name is Julian Williams. I'm gonna do a response to Class Clown 90. He had a video. It was called "Is the Source Magazine Still Relevant in Hip Hop?" This is just my response, and I'm just gonna pretty much use my own thoughts in this one. But pretty much me. I have a little bit of a history with the Source Magazine. I started reading the Source Magazine back in, I want to say, 99. Yeah, about 99 I was reading the Source Magazine. And I would read it on and off at the time. But it's then, like, in late 2000 I became like a normal, regular reader of the Source Magazine. In 2001, I thought 2001 was a great year for the Source because they had like their own television show. The Source Awards were quite popular, like at the same year. It was coming on UPN, which is network television rather than cable, which was actually pretty good at that time. If you can get like an award show like that on regular television, that's actually pretty good. And people did actually watch it, but also we didn't have the internet at the time, so people couldn't really leak out what happened at the award show because a lot of that stuff was pre-taped anyway. But 2001 was a really good year for the Source. I remember 2001 vividly because in 2001 I believe there was a cover with, I want to say there was one with Snoop Dogg and the East Siders. I think Jay-Z was on a cover. Nas may have been on one. And I think there was a Jermaine Dupri one, if I'm not mistaken. But those are the ones that I can remember. I think there was one with Redman, I believe. But I'm thinking back, this is like 10 years. 10 years ago, 12 magazines came out. So those are the ones I kind of remember. I don't remember any other one. And then, in 2002, there was one with Jermaine Dupri, and I believe there was one that talked about, classic hip-hop albums, their 100 best hip-hop albums, and that's when I started to read about, other hip-hop albums. They had, like, Long Live the Kane, De La Soul is Dead. They talked about, I'm trying to remember, there was one X-Clan. They talked about an X-Clan album. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but they were talking about just all kinds of hip-hop albums that had been released in like the time since the Source had been out, since it was like a small magazine, a small publishing, but in 2002 I felt that Source was kind of losing steam in 2002. In 2002 it just didn't feel as good as 2001 because I thought they were promoting garbage artists compared to 2001 and even 99. Like throughout these years, you could look at ads in the Source. You would see ads in the Source, and you would see like little underground hip hop albums. Sorry, I'm getting a message here. But you would see underground hip hop albums that were better than the mainstream albums, which still happens, which is the case like 7 out of 10 times. But there was a lot of underground albums that they just promoted, and they would promote, like I remember I would never heard of Cremega, The Realness or The True Meaning if it wasn't for the Source, because they didn't play it. That's another thing, they just didn't play on the radio or on BET or whatever we were dependent on. We didn't have the internet that had underground radio and stuff. We had Launch, but that's all we had. So I would have never heard of True Meaning or The Realness if it wasn't for the Source Magazine. And that's even back when the Black Eyed Peas were an actual hip-hop group, and they would show little ads with them, and they would talk about like will.i.am's solo album. And and there were other albums, I think, and other than that, I wouldn't have known that Camouflage, a rapper based out in the South, died if it wasn't for the Source, or Marlon Brando from the Sporty Thieves had died. And they would just cover all kinds of hip hop news at the time. And then like in 2002, it just felt 2002, 2003, it felt a little bit different. It felt like the the pinnacle to me of the Source magazine in 2001 was when they had Jay-Z the Blueprint. They rated 5 mics, and they rated Stillmatic 5 mics as well. And after that, I remember there was one that I read, and the one that I read, it featured 50 Cent, Get Rich or Die Trying, and I think they had like 3.5, 4 mics. They rated a 3.5, 4 mic album. And now we can listen back on it. We can be like, okay, we can say Get Rich or Die Trying is a classic, and we can say it's either a 4.5, 5 mic album. But but then after that, I just felt that Source continued to go downhill, and I just stopped reading. In like 2003, I just stopped reading, and it wasn't because the rappers started dissing the Source and Benzino and Eminem were going at it. It just felt a little bit different. I didn't get the vibe that I used to get, with the Source magazine in 2002, 2003 when I just stopped reading it. And also I discovered Double XL. I like Double XL. I like the Love Hate edition, and I remember in 2002 I picked it up on Christmas. 2002 I didn't have anything to do, so I picked up Double XL. It was a Love Hate edition, which they do at the end of the year, and it was Nas and the Bravehearts on the front of it. And and I thought it was an interesting read. And I thought we had people that just truly loved hip hop that were writing Double XL, and I continued to read Double XL throughout the years. So these days, to be honest with you, I still read Double XL. I read it on and off, but I do read Double XL. To be honest with you, last one I got was with Shine on the cover. I read a lot of stuff on the internet now, and I picked up my first Source magazine back in like 6 years, like in January or February of this year. It had Rick Ross and Wiz Khalifa on the cover, so I read that. But is the Source still relevant in hip hop? I don't think so. I don't think Benzino owns it anymore, but I don't even think the Source is still relevant in hip hop. The Class Clown Brop, they had a cover with Chris Brown. About 10 years ago, they sure as hell would have never had a cover with Chris Brown on it. That's just like having a cover with at the time Lil Bow Wow on it. And you'll never know, he may have been on a cover. I doubt it, or having a cover with B2K on it at the time. That's really what it would have been like, and that would have turned off a lot of the fans of the Source. Because the Source seemed to have been getting away from their fan base of just pure hip hop heads that would go and that would just read it, and we would hear we would read about the independent albums and also the mainstream albums, and they would talk about indie artists and they would talk about mainstream artists, and it seemed as if they did put a lot of emphasis on the mainstream, but they put the indie artists out there, and there's many artists I probably would have never heard of if it wasn't for the Source magazine, and I'll give that to them. And then there are some albums that I probably would have never listened to if it wasn't for the Source magazine. In Double XL, to be honest with you, I haven't really gotten that type of hip hop education that I got with the Source with Double XL, and because I haven't seen them cover too many classic albums and just put on full onslaught analysis like the Source did. But Double XL was good, for the times right now. I thought Double XL was good for the times. I've seen Double XL do, have little things where they're like, okay, let's get somebody that will, put somebody in the front let's put somebody in the front that'll make people buy our articles and stuff. But I think that Double XL hasn't digressed away from what they normally do. I don't think they have. So, but if it comes to the hip hop magazines, I read Double XL, read it online, or I read hiphopdx.com, and that's just the instant news source. And so anyway, peeps, I'm out of here. Get at me. Peace.